Talk to us about the relationship between carbohydrate consumption and muscle mass accumulation, hypertrophy, even strength as well. Tell us about how carbohydrates contribute to healthy muscle mass.
And for the listeners out there, without assuming your knowledge level with macronutrients, 3 food groups: fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Fat, important for so many things in our body, but hormone production and satiety. And if you eat too much fat, we know that your body can store fat. Very calorically dense, 9 calories per gram, and more so used when you're doing very low intensity, long-term physical activity. So a marathoner would be burning a bunch of fat. And carbohydrates, our preferred energy source of our body. If you think of Pac-Man, those little pellets of energy in Pac-Man are little glucose pellets. And they come in different forms. It could be fruits and vegetables, whole grains, potatoes, and there are great carbs and there are okay carbs, but there's no such thing as a bad carb. And it's important for energy production and crosses the blood-brain barrier as our only energy source to our brain. And then we have proteins. We are protein. We are made up of, it's the building blocks of life. Unlike carbohydrates and unlike fat, you cannot store protein in an easily accessible form. So you kind of have to have hits of protein throughout the day. Carbohydrates are really important for everything from gut health to hormone production to brain function, energy in general. If someone is hypoglycemic, if they have really low blood sugar, you might feel dizzy or lightheaded, you could faint. And so imagine smaller versions of that over chronic periods of time. It's not great for you. The heart health and anti-carcinogenic properties associated with many carbohydrates, from water-soluble fiber and insoluble fiber and prebiotic fiber and probiotic fiber, all of these are carbohydrates. You're not going to get these in fats and you're not going to get them in protein. So carbohydrates are just so important. And it makes us happy. You know, there's a dopamine association with carbohydrates as well. And it's important to know that there's no such thing as a bad ingredient. There's just a bad diet.
Yeah, or just overconsumption, right? It's like, it's not the carbs that were killing you. It's just you were having maybe too many of them. Coming back to that sort of calories in, calories out model of thinking.
And the state in which you're having them, right? So a potato is great. When you slice a potato and deep fry it and salt it, it's hyper palatable and you're going to overeat it.
Right. And when we talk about protein, I mean, I think everybody's sort of hopefully everyone's gotten the message. You're listening to the show, you've gotten the message around protein. Usually the recommendation is somewhere, generally like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Is there a general recommendation that you have or that you like to see with your clients with carbohydrates, or does it really depend on age, fitness level, muscle mass? Is there a general recommendation that you like, or is it just generally the way that you're building the plate is how you like to look at it?
Yeah, I look at it 2 ways. One is I build the plate, and you alluded to my acronym PATH. And then the other is as a percentage of your total caloric intake. So if you're someone who's actually counting calories and measuring your food, that's not for everybody. But if you're doing that, I like to say that approximately 55 to 60% of your calories should be from carbohydrates. If you take a look at the healthiest populations in the world, all of them are consuming about 60% or more of their calories from carbohydrate. You know, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Scandinavian, Mediterranean diets, all of these are carb-dependent diets, but they're generally whole carbohydrates, they're whole grains, they're tubers, they're legumes, they're fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
The other way I explain it is path, follow the path. And so number one is a palmful of carbohydrates. So whatever fits in your palm of whole grains or high fiber fruits or tubers. A is all the vegetables you want, unlimited amounts of vegetables.
So here's the all.
Here's the all, exactly. Yeah. T is a thumb of healthy fat. So from the base of your thumb to the tip of your thumb, avocados, nuts, seeds, olives, or a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of an oil, a healthy oil. And last is the mass of your hand. So your fist or your hand flat of protein, fish, chicken, eggs, egg whites, actually. We'll talk more about that, et cetera, et cetera.
I actually really like that because I have a lot of and even if you have like a history of any type of eating disorder, sometimes like macro counting or calorie counting can be a bit of a trigger for that. So I do like the idea of visually looking and building the plate and saying, okay, I have approximately a thumb's worth of fat. I have all of the veg, I have the palm's worth of carbohydrates. I think that's a really nice visual. Talk to us about, you mentioned eggs versus egg whites. Talk to us about that.
So it's funny, as I mentioned, donuts are not really a carb, it's a fat, and same with potato chips, and most of those get most of their calories not from carbs. An egg is a fat. So majority of the calories in an egg come from the fat, which is the calorically dense yolk. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean you shouldn't eat it. But it's something to be aware of when you have an egg that's 85 calories and 20 of those calories is from protein and 65 of those calories is from fat. You're eating a fat with some protein. And so if you're trying to get, someone like me, I'm trying to get 40 grams of protein per meal, I would have to have 8 eggs. I would have to have, 750 calories of eggs or 725 calories of eggs to get enough protein in a meal. That's a lot of calories, and that's a lot of saturated fat. So instead, I use 1 or 2 whole eggs and then the rest egg whites to balance it out.
I think that's great because you're still getting the choline, you're still getting all the good brain, all the healthy fats from the yolk, but then you can definitely like pump up that's actually what I like to do as well. So we buy like the egg white, cartons, and you can even, you can do the long pour of the egg whites. It doesn't really matter, but I do like, adding in the yolk too, because it's yummy and it's, good for your brain, good for your skin, all that good stuff as well. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about muscle mass and women as it relates to carbohydrates as well, because I think, we've all heard about muscle protein synthesis. This happens when we're having lots of protein and that drives the MPS process. What I think is often underlooked is the strategic pulsing of insulin as a means to help muscle protein breakdown. So when we're thinking about a perimenopausal or menopausal woman whose, in my opinion, main goal should be at least preserving the muscle mass that she has, and ideally maybe even adding on to it as she's aging, which makes it's a bit more difficult because now she doesn't have she's lost a lot of these anabolic, hormone, the testosterone and estrogen. However, carbohydrates can really help with the muscle preservation because the protein, you can, the 1 gram of protein, let's say per pound of body weight, the 55 to 60% of carbohydrates as you've outlined, or with the PATH method that you just described as well. When you are consuming those carbohydrates, you are going to get this insulin spike, normal, natural, physiological process. We expect that. But the insulin is also going to help with preventing muscle protein breakdown. It's going to be muscle sparing. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that. If that's one of the strategies that maybe you also implement with your clients who are maybe in their mid, 30s, 40s, 50s, who are trying to preserve muscle. What is the strategy, or what is the sort of mechanism that we see with carbohydrates, and why you love them so much?
That's a great question. I think if you've got a wallet and you're paying somebody and you owe them $80 and you run out of 20s, you're going to start using 10s and 5s. And that's kind of the simplest way I talk about muscle sparing when you're on a really low carb or no carb diet, is you start to use your own lean muscle tissue as an energy source to survive and to thrive, hopefully. So in the absence of carbs, your body will start to use protein and fat as an energy source. We don't want that. We want to use things that do not take away hard-earned connective tissues and muscle. And one of the greatest indicators of longevity, not just longevity, but quality of life, is our body's ability to maintain lean muscle mass through later years. So I tell my clients, as you get older, you need to be lifting more than you ever have, and more consistently and more intensely. And carbohydrates are essential to have the energy to do that, but also to make sure that you're fueling your muscles, and also to make sure you're not eating the muscles up that you're working hard to try and build. So it's really hard to be anabolic and catabolic at the same time, to build tissue and break tissue down. So if we're trying to build lean muscle tissue, you want to make sure you're also not breaking down too much lean muscle tissue, and having enough carbs in your diet will protect that.
I'm so happy that I'm having this conversation with you. I had a very similar conversation with Abby Smith Ryan.